Talladega became the new Texas, and we head to Charlotte for the cutoff race. Byron's Texas penalty put him below the cut in the most hectic race of the season, and both Trackhouse cars are still in it. Now, Dan found this race boring up until the last two stages, and to be fair, this is the usual Talladega.
Hard into the wall, the 41 of Kurt Busch.
There was no way.
Oh, it's Kurt Busch.
There's contact.
Get out of you now.
Stewart into the middle of the pack and over. Field.
Oh, he takes out Ty Dillon and...
Hey, Elliot, thanks a ton for having me. Always a pleasure to be here on the show with you. Talladega came, Talladega went, and in my honest opinion, I thought this was one of the more lackluster Talladegas that we've had to witness. Maybe it's just that I'm personally getting a little bit dull with the whole Talladega Superspeedway experience. Daytona 500 always holds a special place in my heart. There wasn't as much, in my opinion, action or passing going on. These cars were visibly very difficult to pass with. There was just a lot of maintaining position if you got sent to the back. It was a lot more difficult to work your way up. So that did at least keep some more incentive to keep your car up front, keep it clean, because you can't just have the late race charge like you always used to see. But there was a lot more follow the leader action going on. Sure, they were double file for a while. There wasn't as much passing going on this time around. Maybe that was due in part to the guys knowing that this new car hits a lot harder. You do not want to hit the wall full speed in this new car. Have a Alex Bowman, Kurt Busch style situation. Chase Elliott got it done. Good to see that coming out of the number 9 camp, especially that with playoff points being as valuable as they are this season. But yeah, all in all, I just don't think this is going to be a Talladega race I remember very much longer.
So Chase Elliott won, and you already know that Dawsonville just went mental.
If you ain't a fan of Chase Elliott, then where in the fuck you at?
But it's not just the siren that happens. And now, Dan will take you through the standard procedure of a Chase Elliott win.
So after a Chase Elliott win, there normally tends to be a pattern you can break down into 5 easy to remember steps. Step 1, the split reaction. The community instantly takes a side on the Chase Elliott fanboys and the Chase Elliott haters. Step 2, they have to head to social media because obviously their opinion is the most important and they need to make it heard to everybody else. Number 3, argue with strangers. It's very important to find somebody who adamantly opposes your honest opinion on the matter. Step 4, come out of the whole process and think you are the winner. Remember, it's very important to look at the metaphor of a pigeon playing chess. No matter how many simple moves you make, and explain to the pigeon why that your move is the proper move, all the pigeon will do will knock down the piece and strut itself around the board back and forth, acting like it just won the war. Stage 5, reset and reaffirm. After you've come out of the whole argument with your ignorant beliefs completely validated by other strangers online, and you've now owned a completely other stranger online, you can go into next week ready and raring to go, hoping that this boy does or does not do it again so you can repeat the whole process from start. Now, on the other hand, here is the bonus content. There are other fans out there which I consider to be a Chase Elliott fan, a simple person who says, hey, I like this guy, and I would like very much to continue liking my driver. I don't want to reaffirm my beliefs. Yes, it is okay to like somebody just because you like them. Maybe it's the car, maybe it's the name, maybe it's the family lineage, but these are what I call a Chase Elliott fan, and they do exist, and they are out there. Thank you for your time.
Of course, it wouldn't have happened without the caution for Daniel Hemrick when he lost a motor when he tried to exit pit road. And no one knows or can agree on whether it should have been a caution at all. And here's my take. If the motor had gave way in his pit stall, the crew should have taken him behind the wall and the race would have stayed green. But he wasn't. He was at the other end in another pit stall and guys would have had to leg it down the pit road. So NASCAR had to decide to throw the caution. But none of this would have happened with an outside pit road wall. separating the track from the pits, stopping things like this.
And I would imagine that's what brought the caution out when that crew member ran so close to the...
That actually happened. And Dan thinks differently to me. So here's his thoughts.
So yeah, this has been a massive talking point of the entire NASCAR community all week. The late race caution for a car stopped at the very end of pit road. Now, do I personally think that they got this right? And to your point, Elliot, I believe NASCAR made the right call. In my opinion, I don't want to see about 8 to 10 guys all start jogging all the way down pit road to go ahead and grab their car and move it slowly backwards down the entirety of pit road one more time to take it back into the garage when you got the field coming out of turn 4, and then you have the chance of maybe a Brad Keselowski turning somebody, and all of a sudden, boom, you have a bunch of guys heading down in the direction of the pits where there's a defenseless crew pushing a car backwards down pit road. I think that would have possibly been negligent, albeit unlikely. I don't think it would have happened, but there's far worse calls NASCAR could have made. I think they got this one right, and I would have been curious to see how the race had played out. I don't think it would have played out too terribly differently than what we saw this Sunday.
And whilst we're on the things that happened in Talladega, I want to talk about Ryan Blaney and how much of a god he is at close finishes. A few videos ago, I mentioned how close all of his wins were to second place, and now we passed them with less than 10 to go, and he's only gone and done it again, but this time for a stage win. Blaney's now 32 points above the cut, heading into the Roval, mostly because of the clutch move he made on Denny Hamlin for the stage win.
Yeah, it's really weird to be talking about Ryan Blaney in the situation that he's in right now, considering how out of it he almost looked near the midway point. That kid has just done everything right since the playoffs have started. Hell, even before when he fought against Martin Truex Jr. in that very close battle, which led to Martin Truex getting bumped out of the playoffs, leading to that final spot being filled by the 12 car. With as inconsistent as he's been before that, you thought there was a chance he might get bumped out probably in the round of 12. He's fast enough to stay in it that long, but now he's looking like he's got a serious shot to make it to the final 4. I think you should be very scared of how consistent this kid is being. He is there when it matters the most. He has found his legs. He's got this new car dialed in, and there's a couple of tracks coming up. I think he's got a massive chance at winning it too.
So we're now heading to the Roval, where the round of 8 almost looks set. We have Chase Elliott moving on. Chase Briscoe is with a close battle with Austin Cindric for the transfer. Byron's 11 points below, which would have been 14 above, but he did this.
Driver and owner points for this incident right there. There you go.
Unreal. Both Trackhouse cars look like they're moving on. Hendrick looks like he's losing 2. Gibbs pretty much only has 1 guy left. Penske's at risk of missing 1. Stuart Haas is at risk of losing all drivers. And Justin Marks is sat sipping a bottle of whiskey with a cigar in his mouth and watching this chaos unfold.
Yeah, this entire playoff series has been the most bonkers thing I have watched in a NASCAR chase-style format since its inception. I cannot think of any more chaos I have ever seen. Yeah, the entire Alex Bowman situation is one of the most jarring of the bunch. On the outside, the hit didn't look as bad as it possibly was, but from the moment he made impact, that man said, yeah, I'm done. I can't race this anymore. With the entire turbulent frenzy we've witnessed from all of these playoff teams, nobody's really finding the consistent speed they want. It's been a series of other drivers far out of the playoffs, getting farther ahead of them than they want to be in, minus your Ryan Blaney, who's starting to really get it dialed in when it's really counting the most. Can somebody cue up the Benny Hill theme? I can't think of anything better to go with what we're witnessing on Sundays. And I don't see that trend even stopping, considering that we got the Roval coming up. Who's it going to be? I have no idea. I got a strong pick for who I think it's going to be. But the way this season has been, nothing is certain. Nobody has any inkling at the skill that they have in these brand new cars with how consistently inconsistent they've been. The racing, I think, is great. But I'm thrown for just as much of a loop now as the rest of these teams. Nobody has any safety net underneath them going into these final few races.
We filmed this 2 days ago. NASCAR has now taken back the penalty that Byron had. So he's now gone from 11 below to 14 above. He's gone from 10th to 7th in the standings. Now, I'm not saying it was god-awful timing, but it has made everything in this video wrong. Unreal.
Now on to this week's What to Expect with the Charlotte Roval. So far, the weather itself is actually looking pretty good. We're at around a clear 70 degrees. That's Fahrenheit, by the way, Elliot. So this is probably not going to turn into a whole rain tire fiasco. How is this going to play out on the actual track? This is going to be a much more simple and predictable experience with this track. Now, you can only take predictable so far with how this new car has performed on road courses, which has been extremely well. Are these teams going to try to go for more of the road racing segments of this track? Try and tune the cars to handle these corners a lot better, or is this going to be more of the speed sections? There's the whole massive sweeping NASCAR 1 and 2 that takes you down the backstretch to the really quick chicane that comes almost out of nowhere. Are they going to try and swing for the fences and try to say, yeah, let's go ahead and tune these cars to run on both as cleanly and crisply as possible? Or will that make you the jack of all trades but the master of none? Lastly, tires. After what we've seen at Texas with Charlotte having varying loads for how this new tire is going to handle on a much more flat surface compared to the banked surface. Our team's about to say, look, this is the last race of this round of playoffs. Let's take this in a more safe direction. I think we're about to see that for the bulk of the race, and you might start seeing some folks pushing their tires a little bit harder in the final stage of this race. All in all, I think this is going to be shaping up to be an extremely good Charlotte Roval race with this brand new car and how almost purpose-built it is for road racing.
And now we move on to the picks, where Dan won the picks by 2 spots. Well, I say won. He kind of did nothing. It's kind of like that kid who did nothing in the project and still got the A. But by rules that I made, he still goes first. Unreal.
Don't hate the player, hate the game. So this takes us on to the Charlotte Roval. Who do I think is going to be the one to get it done this weekend? As we've already talked about him a couple of times, I personally think it's going to be the number 12 car of Ryan Blaney. This kid has found his stride when it counts the most. And we go to a track he has been extremely consistent on his entire career. He's not finished worse than 9th here. That is top 10s across the board since it's actually been created, this race at the very least. He's won here. Won here back at his very first race with a very controversial finish with Jimmy Johnson and Martin Truex. That was its own separate animal, and that solidified the track's existence right to begin with. That's neither here nor there. Ryan Blaney is one of the most consistent drivers at this track, week in and week, well, year in and year out, my apologies. I think this kid has what it takes to get it done here, lock himself into the next round, and keep pushing himself farther and farther into this playoffs.
Now, I've gone for a driver who hasn't won there, but he isn't actually that safe. So I've picked Daniel Suarez. His Trackhouse Racing's been on a rage this season with road courses. They've won 2 already, Ross Chastain in Kota and Daniel Suarez in Sonoma. He isn't safe by any means. Like, he's only 11 above, I think. But I'm sure with Chastain being the way he is,
The back of Denny, and he finally just runs into him. He definitely moved.
Back to the bottom.
Oh! The 11 sideways. Can he hang on?
But Larson's got too much speed. Oh, they're wrecking behind.
18 goes around the roster.
I'm pretty sure he'd be happy to make a bit of contact. Anyway, thank you for watching today's video. I'm sure Dan's had an absolute blast.
Oh yeah, for sure. I had a blast with this one. Thank you so much for having me, Elliot. It is always a pleasure to be here on the show with you. Everybody watching at home, I would love to hear your take on the Talladega race. Did you think this was a more exciting race than how I thought it was? If so, let us know. We always want to hear what you folks got to say. As always, let us know how wrong I am, how right he is. You can follow me at Cupdates Dan on Twitter. I'm as active as I can be there when I can be there. But yeah, as always, thank you for joining us. Great to have y'all here, and y'all have a good night.
Remember to like and subscribe, and we'll be back next week to try and unpack the Roval and look ahead. That's Vegas. Wow. We're looking ahead to Vegas. Cheers.